Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. Senator Bernie Sanders had a big victory last night in Wisconsin. So now what? The senator said his victory was proof, quote, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. But pollsters and strategists continue to say the one thing Sanders cannot do is actually win the Democratic nomination before the convention, barring, as one pundit said, an act of God or the FBI. Joining me now, Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard. Congresswoman, aloha.
Aloha, Jake.
So, Congresswoman, David Plouffe, one of the hands that steered the Obama candidacy, then presidency, twice gave his take on the Democratic race, writing, quote, I believe Hillary Clinton has zero chance of not being the Democratic nominee. Why is he wrong? How is Sanders going to become the nominee?
Well, first of all, we live in a democracy. And it's been great to see how in the last 7 of the last 8 contests that have taken place, Bernie Sanders has won those contests and won them by significant margins. To me, it just shows the American people are responding to his message, the message that he should continue to carry out to people about taking government out of the hands of the very powerful, the very wealthy and special interests, and putting it back into the hands of the people. This message of ending these interventionist regime change, unnecessary wars, this message of breaking up the big banks on Wall Street and ending those risky gambling measures that have been really carrying such a heavy toll on the American people, that the American people have paid so much for, and we've got to prevent to make sure from happening again.
I want you to listen to something that Hillary Clinton said earlier today in response to Senator Sanders' appearance before the New York Daily News editorial board, which a lot of critics have said suggests a certain lack of depth in terms of even some of Sanders' highest priority policies. Take a listen.
I think he hadn't done his homework, and he'd been talking for more than a year about doing things that he obviously hadn't really studied or understood. And that does raise a lot of questions. And really what it goes to is for voters to ask themselves, can he deliver what he's talking about? Can he really help people?
Your response?
Look, Bernie Sanders has been very clear in laying out his vision for this country. He's been really opening his heart to the American people, laying out his heart as a servant's heart and where he'd like to go. And specifically with regards to the Wall Street banks, he's detailed exactly what was that cause to the 2008 crash that cost our country over $22 trillion, caused American people by the millions to lose their homes and to lose their life savings. He has pointed specifically to exact steps he would take, core of which is a point of disagreement between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and that is the Glass-Steagall Act, which would essentially separate those risky investment banking practices from the commercial day-to-day banking that consumers rely upon in their everyday lives.
Right.
He has supported and promised to implement this 21st century Glass-Steagall, something that Elizabeth Warren and John McCain have co-sponsored in the Senate, something that I have co-sponsored in the House, and that is core and central to making sure that these banks that are even bigger today than they were prior to the 2008 crash are no longer allowed to pit their risky practices on the backs of the American people.
Right, but Congressman, I guess the question is the lack of detail that he was able to speak to in that Daily News editorial board. One of the issues Hillary Clinton is hammering Sanders on now is breaking up the big banks, as you note, and for not doing the diligence on how he would actually achieve that. Now, the man who helmed the Council of Economic Advisors during President Obama's first term, Austin Goolsbee, chimed in too, tweeting that, quote, if main policy is break up banks, regulate Wall Street, how can you not even know what's legal or what regulators do? Sanders' interview is disturbing.
Well, I think that those criticisms, frankly, are ridiculous because we elect a president based on the vision that they lay out and their commitment to carry out that vision. There's 2 main things that a president will need. One is the commitment to carry out the vision that they've laid out and that the American people and trust in them with that responsibility. And the second is to have the tools and the abilities to work with others and the good judgment to be able to carry out that vision. I would challenge any candidate running for president to say that they know the exact and specific detail of every single piece of legislation they want to get passed, every single treaty, every single agreement with other countries or other countries' leaders. We live in a democracy, not a dictatorship. So Bernie Sanders has laid out clearly his vision, generally the way that he plans to carry out that vision, knowing that he's going to have to work with others to be able to make that happen.
All right, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, aloha. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Aloha, Jake. Thanks.
Joining me now, Senior Advisor for Communications, Political Outreach, and Senior Spokesperson for the Clinton campaign, Karen Finney. Karen, thanks so much for joining us. You heard Congresswoman Gabbard just now. Any response?
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, all due respect to the Congresswoman, I mean, look, no one is questioning Senator Sanders' commitment to the issues or passion for these issues. But let's just take, for example, when we talk about Wall Street reform and why the details actually matter. When you look at the plan that Secretary Clinton has put forward, and a number of outside independent analysts have pointed this out, she talks not just about here's what we need to do, but here's how we need to do it. And one of the specifics she talks about is the shadow banking system and going after more consistently all of the various ways that there is still risk in the system. So I think it is a fair criticism when asked the question to Senator Sanders, how would you break up the banks? What is your, not just your vision, but what is your plan? I think people want to know that our leaders, they have vision, they have passion, they have commitment, but they also have a plan and a degree of understanding about the various factors that would go into something like breaking up the banks.
So that's fair enough, but what would you say to the Sanders campaign officials who would say his vision is more important than your details because Secretary Clinton has such close ties to Wall Street, whether it's the hundreds of thousands of dollars she was paid by Goldman Sachs or the donations she continues to get? How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say that's a very convenient attack, and they've made it many times, and yet, she's the person who many outside independent analysts have said has the toughest plan, and again goes after things like systemic risk, which Senator Sanders doesn't, and B, they've never once been able to point to any actual proof that to support their allegation, suggesting that somehow Secretary Clinton is beholden to Wall Street. And C, I would remind people that she actually went to Wall Street, in 2007 when she was a senator, and was calling them out for what they were doing. So, and by the way, you've got hedge funds running ads against Secretary Clinton, and I would say they're doing that because they're afraid of the idea that she would actually become president, and they know that this is a woman who, and particularly here in New York, let me tell you something, folks in New York know that when Hillary Clinton says she's going to do something, she gets it done and she delivers results. So I'm assuming that's why they're running ads against her. And, again, it's an unsubstantiated sort of allegation from the Sanders campaign, and I understand why they want to make it.
So your campaign and Secretary Clinton are being more aggressive against Senator Sanders as this campaign has continued. Ed Rendell, former governor of Pennsylvania, big Clinton supporter, earlier today just said, quote, I think the Clinton campaign should turn down the rhetoric because we're going to need a large percentage of those Bernie Sanders voters to be for Secretary Clinton in November. Are you at all concerned when a supporter as steadfast and stalwart as Ed Rendell is saying, hey, tone it down? Are you at all second guessing?
I am actually more concerned when the campaign manager, Senator Sanders' campaign manager, knowing the facts about the math and the reality of the calendar, would accuse Secretary Clinton of being too ambitious. I always thought that was a good thing in someone who would be running for president, that we want a level of ambition. I'm frankly more concerned about that. I mean, some of the things, we've also, remember, it was just 2 weeks ago, we read that it was Senator Sanders' campaign that was poll testing various lines of attack against Secretary Clinton. She was asked today questions about that Daily News editorial board meeting, and she responded to those questions. And I think questions, for example, about Senator Sanders' commitment to the Democratic Party were raised in an interview that he did last week on a different network with Rachel Maddow, who asked about supporting down ballot candidates and raising money for others in the Democratic Party, which Hillary Clinton is the only candidate right now who is raising money both for state parties and as well as for the DNC. And I'll tell you why that's important and why I think that's an important distinction. I was just in West Virginia over the weekend, and there are a lot of Democrats down there who want help. They want to turn that state blue. And part of being the leader of the party is understanding you've got to help support down ballot races. In a place like Wisconsin, that state party needs the help if we're going to defeat Scott Walker.
All right, Karen Finney from the Clinton campaign, thanks so much. Appreciate your time. This programming note,
Thanks, Jake.
Next Thursday on the CNN debate stage, it's Bernie from Brooklyn versus the former New York senator. Clinton against Sanders, just days ahead of the Empire State primary. Wolf Blitzer, also from New York, a Buffalo boy. He'll moderate it. You will not want to miss the New York showdown.
Hi everyone, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thank you very much for tuning in. Okay, I was just about to head out the door, and then I saw this this interview with Tulsi. I'm not sure exactly how her name is pronounced, with the Congresswoman. She is most impressive. As you know, that's how I feel. Most impressive. And I thought it was really, I wanted to leave the Karen Finney part. Karen Finney is going to be Hillary Clinton's press secretary, or the White House press secretary, if the media has its way, clearly, when Hillary Clinton becomes president of the United States. Which I hope you guys know how I feel about that too. We'll be getting further into that hopefully very, very soon, in the next few hours or a couple days, whatever. The thing is that I think that I left the Karen Finney part in there because I think it shows clear media bias. You know, it's just Bernie Sanders wins this key state, and they want to act like, you know, they keep pounding Bernie like, why is he even in this race? What? That's the way that they approach his spokespeople. That's the way they approach him. And then it's Hillary Clinton. It's like, oh, we can't wait until you're president and get to do the first interview with the first woman president. You promised that we get to do the first interview, right? That's where the media is at. That's why, you know, oh, you'll get the first interview with the first woman, first interview with the first female president. Oh my God, that's gotta be me. Give me that. I'll say whatever you need me to say, Hillary. I will bash the fuck out of Bernie Sanders, people. Over and over and over again. It's not right. You media people are disgusting. Just like Donald Trump says, you're the most disgusting lying sacks of filth on the planet. They're war propagandists. You guys know this. The mainstream media, they're war propagandists, right? War propaganda is an international war crime, Jake Tapper. You're a war criminal. Tulsi, I'm going to call her Tulsi. The Congresswoman is up there, you know, making clear that if you've had enough of war, she's an Iraq war vet, Iraq or Afghanistan, I'm not sure which. She's making clear, you know, if you've had enough of this, Hillary Clinton's only going to give you more. Donald Trump is only going to make more war. I mean, he sounds like he might not. I don't know. It's impossible to know what Donald Trump is going to make happen. But, you know, probably whatever's best for Donald Trump. That seems to be what he does. But Hillary Clinton clearly is not the choice unless you want more war. And we're going to get into that a whole lot here in just a little bit. But if you want to see, there's a Donald Trump interview coming up at 4 p.m. Pacific. I will be posting that over on the C-SPAN Junkie Mox News alternate YouTube page. So there's a clickable link in the text body of the video right below this video on the video page. In the text body of the video, you will find a clickable link that takes you over to the C-SPAN Junkie page. If you want to see that Donald Trump rally that's coming up in just a couple hours, go over there now, subscribe. It'll be in your box when you're ready to watch it. Okay? I think it's a good plan. So thanks very much for putting up with me and for your continued support. You guys are great. If it wasn't for you guys, Mox News wouldn't be here no more, because it's you guys that give Mox everything. You guys that make Mox News a worthwhile page. And I thank you. I can't thank you enough for that. So stay cool. Wednesdays, this war is going to end. Just not when Hillary Clinton is president. That's for sure. Thank you to the Congresswoman for everything.